Hot stove conversations about baseball, history, football, and current events that may leave you saying there's more to consider. Now, here's your host, Jack Moore.
And welcome to another edition of More to Consider. I have Trent Mongero on with me today. I met him last December, and I know we run in some of the same circles. Some other people I've had on speak highly. I certainly see why now. I know some people in baseball. There's kind of a universe of baseball people that run into each other. They run in the same circles. I met this gentleman in the fall. He's an infield instructor with a great background in baseball and the things we're going to cover. College baseball, professional baseball, things he's had experiences in. We were just talking off air before we came on, the four-year school versus the junior college thing. Trent, so happy to have you on, brother. We're going to talk some baseball. Give me a little bit more of your background. You grew up in New York, and where'd you go from there?
So I grew up in upstate New York in a little town called Yorktown, and Yorktown Heights, actually. It's about an hour from the city, and big lacrosse area. Probably most famous for Dave Matthews from the Dave Matthews Band growing up. Probably most famous for that. But I was a baseball guy in a lacrosse town and knew I had to get south. My grandparents were from Florida. So my first venture out of high school was literally trek across the country, and we're talking about mid-'80s, no cell phones, no internet, knowing nobody, and going down to try to walk on basically as a preferred walk-on at Florida Southern College, which at the time had just won the Division II National Championship that previous spring. So I'm talking fall after they just won the national championship, trying to etch my way onto this roster. So it was a very daunting challenge for a guy that came out of a high school situation that Legion ball was great, high school situation was not good at all. And that's a whole nother story that we can touch on. And that's part of the reason why I chose to be a high school coach when my playing career came to an end, because I had a poor high school baseball experience and I wanted to maybe help others have a more positive experience. So that got me to college, and I'm not sure how deep you want to get into this journey, but that was the beginning of it.
Well, when you talk about the high school experience, I played in high school, and you don't know what you don't know. There were some talented people. Now, I came out of a part of Virginia where we played deep into basketball. Matter of fact, our high school team got knocked out one year by Ralph Sampson in Harrisonburg. So that's who. We don't have a kid over 6'3", and we play them to 9 points when they blew everybody out by far more. So we had a great basketball team and incredible football players that never went to college, didn't have the grades, but we would run and hit with anybody. And we had good baseball players. You get to college, and I remember my summers, I'd run into guys, and they're talking a different level. When it came to defensive position and signaling pitches to the outfield, I'm like, wow, I've never heard any of this. We just didn't know it. So that was a great experience, because now you're playing with some D1 guys in the summer league or some guys that have just come from better backgrounds. And so the thing you're talking about, too, I think you wouldn't probably trade, clearly, your experiences for anything. That getting in the car and driving to Florida and see if I can make it, there are experiences in that. No cell phone. You got to pull over and find a payphone if you can, if you need help or something.
Yep.
So that's an experience that makes you who you are.
Right.
I think that's part of what we're going to talk about, where kids are today. But go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's part of, my journey, and it was learning to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. It was the beginning of that, experience, and really just being naive to thinking that you could, be this undersized kid from Yorktown Heights, New York, at a time where we didn't have, indoor facilities or travel teams or anything like that. Right. I was a quarterback in the fall for a high school team, and, I didn't play basketball, but I did growing up, and then you had baseball in the spring, right? So I'm going to go down and basically try to etch my way onto a Division II National Championship team who at that time could pretty much hang with anybody in the country, a Division I team, what have you. And, just getting in a car, packing up, going down there. And it was an amazing journey with so many ups and downs, but it ultimately made me who I was. And I was able to persevere And by the very end of the journey, I think it prepared me for some really good experiences. So the opportunity that I got at UNC Wilmington and so forth. So it was a lot of fun.
I know a guy, and it's a household name in baseball circles, and you know him, and I'm not going to throw his name out, but I met this guy a few years ago at an indoor facility, and I knew he had a 19-year career in the big leagues. 19 years.
Wow.
So when I get to know him, I always want to ask the question. I actually hit with Manny Ramirez one time at an indoor facility with the guy. He's hysterical. I had a great time with him, but I was like, to Manny, I was like, when did you know that you knew that? He goes, Jackie, I didn't think I was that good. Like, Manny, you didn't? And he goes, I kind of blossomed my junior year. You know, he's in the city in New York, and he goes in the first round, but it's always interesting to hear guys. So this guy in particular I'm talking about, I did that same thing. I'm like, when did you kind of know that? He goes, Jack, I finished my summer or my spring of my senior year. I'm not even going to college. I'm like, okay. And he said, this is how God struck in this situation. He's a very devout Christian because this is what happened. A friend of mine said, hey, come out to our summer league game. I'm like, okay. So I go out, grab my glove, infielder. I go to play, and the coach from a junior college had come to see his buddy, the pitcher, and comes up to him after the game and said, who are you? And he goes, you want to play JUCO? What's that? What do you want, junior college? Okay, why not? He plays there. He's an All-American. He goes to a very high-ranked Division I school, gets drafted, and plays professional baseball. And my mind goes to, what if he never goes out to play summer ball that day? A coach literally found him. He was not really aware of junior college. He wasn't a heavily recruited guy, and he ends up playing 19 years in the majors. And there were stories in the past like that, where lightning strike, right place, right time, recruiting was not the same. And I think something's been lost because you were talking about your upbringing, so I'll bring this subject up. I'm an attorney, did player representation, and several years ago I met a lot of really neat scouts, old guys. And I met this one guy that pitched in the 50s with Ted Williams with the Red Sox. He told the greatest Ted Williams stories you've ever heard. Loved the guy. He called me Jackie. He said, hey, Jackie, you know what's wrong with the kids today? That's what he goes, they don't play Sandlot. I'm like, okay. And he goes, do you play Sandlot? And I go, yeah. And he goes, how did it work? I said, well, he goes, who ran it? And I said, either the kid that brought the ball or the one that could kick everybody else's ass. And he goes, exactly. Did you learn to play together? Did you settle your fights? When did you go in? When mom called you to dinner? You played all day. No air conditioning in the house, played all day. And he goes, what you learned from that was how to play with your peers, how to play the game respectful to the other people around you. When did you first have experience with adults? I'm like, well, at some point in Little League. He goes, what did you think of the coach? And I went, guy that wrote the lineup. Not much more. There was no instruction. And we sort of figured out how to play. You mentioned being quarterback. He goes, another buddy of mine that pitched in the big leagues that was a scout, he said, I used to be able to go to the high school. I could walk in and say, who plays quarterback? Because he plays point guard and he plays shortstop or pitch or both. And that's been lost. So now kids are specializing at 10. They're only playing baseball or skating or soccer or whatever. So we've lost that across the board trainability in several sports, which has been shown to reduce injury. But when he said that, probably pushing 70-year-old guy 20 years ago, I'm sure he's since passed, and I love this guy, and I've totally lost touch with him. But the point he made about how kids used to just go to the vacant lot and play has been lost. And I will bet that's a big part of your experience was growing up playing with other kids in the neighborhood. Fair to say?
Yeah, no doubt. Tiny little town I was in, one stoplight town. We were all over that place. Our parents never knew where we were. There was a core group of about 10 of us, from probably a quarter-mile radius that would meet every day, and whatever sport was in season, that's what we were playing. And we had about an acre in my backyard. We had a full field back there that my dad created for us, and if you hit it in the pool, it was a home run, and we had an above-the-ground pool, so you had to get it over the fence into the pool. And, the right field had a big hedges that were like 30 feet high. So you had to, get it up over that. And then left field went forever, like it went all the way up to the road. So most of the guys were righty, so we'd play that guy super deep. The big power hitters, they couldn't hit it over the fence. They'd get mad. But, it was 100% what you said. Growing up, having that experience certainly is lost. And I think the true love of the game putting on a game on TV, watching it from beginning to end, just falling in love with the game of baseball. And we didn't have Sports Center. We didn't have games on all the time. So when there was a game on TV, of course, I grew up a Yankee fan. My dad's favorite player was Mickey Mantle.
Wow.
We go to about 14 games a year. It was like $1.50 for the bleacher seats, $1.50. You know, we'd ride an hour down to New York City, take in a game. Once in a while, he would do something special, get us in box seats, work our way down to those over. And I just fell in love with the game of baseball, and it just carried through my entire life. And like I said, though, I was in a lacrosse town, so most of the players that played Little League, when we went from Sandlot to Little League, by the time they got into high school, all the mediocre baseball players were over on the lacrosse field, and just the better ones, pretty much, or the real bad ones, were in baseball. But fortunately, we had Legion Ball, and I know I'm kind of skipping around there, but our Legion team was very good. Very, very good. I mean, there was some good high schools around us. We were the hotbed for lacrosse. You know, Lakeland High School, Mahopac High School nearby had some Division I players. One was drafted, and as a pitcher, probably numerous drafted out of college. But we had a really good Legion team when that came together. But my overall growing up was certainly Sandlot, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. I think it's missed today dearly with kids growing up.
Yeah, I say that 25 years ago, the impact of that guy saying that, you know, stuff starts to spin in your head when you're like, I never thought about it that way. But this guy is doing an observation from much further back than I could, lived. I mean, he's playing professional baseball before I'm born, playing at a high level. And something about doing the player representation, I started to see the whole travel thing because I got involved with it myself to some degree. And you kind of ask kids. I've always found this is a pretty good measurement. You know, the guys that I've had, I've probably worked with 100 kids that play pro ball, and I've 15 or 18 that have played in the big leagues. If I ask a kid, what do you want from baseball, and the answer was somewhere in the neighborhood of, I want to be a Hall of Famer, they were probably pretty good. But you notice the answer today a lot of times you get, and kids are kids, they're going to gravitate towards certain expectations. Like, hey, Timmy, why are you playing? I want to get to the next level. The hell's that mean? You know, well, that's what they told me to say. I want to get to the next level. So then I started to see the travel thing turn into that you have a group of people and they're telling the kid, you go show you can steal a base. Forget the score, forget the situation. Don't hit behind the runner. We're never going to bunt. You just show your tools. You show your tools to the best degree you can, so they don't learn how to play baseball in the team environment. I mean, and again, it's old man, get off my lawn. We're barking at things that are going on. But I coach in the summer, and I have some D1 kids, and, baseball, I have kids at different level. They don't know anything about baseball. They literally don't know anything. And I'm not trying to be hypercritical. I got a situation in the summer league, pretty prestigious summer league a few years ago. First night, a fastball is thrown down and away to a right-handed batter. When the runner breaks from first, the second baseman's diving on second in coverage, and a guy dribbles a ground ball behind him. Well, from my vantage point, I see catcher set up down and away. The pitch is executed there, and the guy backsides it, which is all he could really do. It's what he wanted. It's what he got. But he hits it behind him. And I said to the head coach, I'm like, this guy's ought to switch coverage sometimes. If they're getting the pitch in location, they can switch up coverage. So he goes, well, tell him that tomorrow. So I come in the next day and I said, you guys in the middle, you're looking for sign and location, right? And they're like, what, coach? What? And I'm like, sign location. And they're like, you're blowing up my head. It's too much. I can't understand what you're... I'm like, guys, how are you playing shortstop and you don't know what pitch is being thrown in what location? And I'm like, the mind yours, open mouth, closed mouth, just somebody quarterback it. If you see the pitch is going to be in a location, it's going to be backsided. Have that guy hold his ground, and you're going to be the guy in coverage. Mm-hmm. I'm scared of this. Then I'm like, do you call fastball off speed to the outfield? What are you talking about? They're D1 guys.
Right.
So I talked to a D1 coach later, and I'm like, what gives? And he goes, well, with the portal now, if we talk a little bit too much about strategy and feel for the game, they freak out and go somewhere else. This is literally what he said to me. Now, you're in that space. You do coaching and things like that. Are the kids less coachable? What is that? I mean, seriously, what is it? I got 5 middle infielders. None have heard about covering, or switching coverage. None of them are looking in for the pitch and location. I can't fathom that. What do you say to that?
Well, that's the world we live in. I mean, but something could be done about it, and that's what I'll get to.
Yeah.
So the game is chess. Everybody's playing checkers now. 95% of the world's playing checkers. The stuff you're talking about is chess, and it's the little part of the game that's going on in so many different facets that the average person doesn't even know about, right? And to me, it's all about buy-in. So when I'm working with players, whether it's at these elite infield camps, the dirt bro camps that I do, or my own teams, I'm wanting every advantage possible, and I try to get them to buy in that you're trying to separate yourself. One, if you want to play in college, if you do want to move up, if you have aspirations to play in college or professionally, you're going to need every advantage possible. And and then the next thing is we're trying to win baseball games. So if we can reduce opportunities for our opponents and we can increase opportunities for ourselves, that's ultimately what the game boils down to. 7-inning game, 21 outs. We're going to try to actually reduce your outs, our opponents. We're going to pick you off. We're going to turn double plays. We're not going to give you any extra, that's for sure, with walks or errors. Right. So we're literally trying to shrink your window of opportunity, and we're trying to grow ours as much as possible by putting pressure on you, walks, hits batsmen, stealing bases, extra base hits, squeeze play, whatever we got to do to extend our opportunities. Well, what I'm talking about here is the game. And when you can get players to buy in that this will help us win, and then they start to see, I feel like I've had success getting my players to buy in. Now, when I first went to some schools, I felt a little pushback initially when I was younger, some of this stuff. But as the teams got better and better and better, and we're like playing for state championships and winning state championships, well, it didn't take nearly as long at the next school that I went to. I tried to stay at schools with a good amount of tenure, so I wasn't jumping. But when I went to the next school, and now you're coming in with a couple state championships, people really start to pay attention and buy in a little bit faster. So I think the older we get, the more experience we have, how we present the information, what we can say to get players to buy in and understand the importance of this stuff. Like, there's no excuse for a Division I player to not know this stuff, but the vast majority don't. So
yeah, and that's really all I was saying. Is not I'm trying to stump the chump, make the kids look. I'm just saying I was shocked.
Right. No,
that the concept of doing that was really freaking them out. And I'm like, how have they played to this level and they've never heard these things?
Right.
Because I've had kids come out of programs, they're middle infielders calling pitches all around. They're eyeballing each other. They know exactly what the other's thinking. They shift together. They make movements together. They came out of better programs. I was just shocked that kids are playing the D1 level and they've never heard these things.
So you said it earlier, you can only do what you know. And to me, the vast majority of coaches, as I've grown older with you, the coaches are typically doing less and less and less. So the players are exposed to less and less and less. So when they get old enough to be coaches themselves, they're going to rely on what they know, which is less. So now they're giving less information, or they're intimidated by trying to give more information because they feel like they really don't know and they don't want to say something wrong. So they simplify. Let's just take a little BP, a little infield, outfield, hit some ground balls, and call it a practice, right? They're not going to get into the meat and potatoes of anything. They're just going to stick to just the old generic vanilla. And so I think it's something that you and I are addressing here that hopefully people are listening, and now we need, what is the solution? Well, the solution is finding resources that you trust that are not just looking for clicks and likes on social media, where you can pick into their brain and learn from them. Not that you and I, for example, know it all. We don't, but we're still students of the game. That's why we're talking.
Absolutely.
And then watch the game. So stop and start watching the game, not just the highlights, and watch it as if you're a player, not a fan. So watch your position, watch what they're doing, watch in between pitches, watch the communication. Then go to quality camps, or I call them academies, the Dirt Bro Infield Academy, for instance, where we're teaching all of these things. And I have players as young as 6th grade, all the way up through college players coming back in the off season that are wanting refresher courses on these little things that can help them, because as you know, the environment right now in college to get from the high school to the college ranks is as tough as it's ever been. So
Yes.
especially if you want to step in and think you're going to play as a freshman in college, you better be a dude, not just physical tools, run, throw, hit, field, hit for power. You better have mental makeup that's off the charts, baseball IQ, situational awareness. And if all you've done your whole life is you've been a guy that can run fast or throw hard or hit it far or have exit velo, that's great. There's nothing wrong. That's fantastic. It's going to get you some attention. But ultimately, that's not going to win baseball games at the collegiate level. Can you situationally hit? You know, can you recognize pitches? Can you make plays? Are you in the right place at the right time? Ultimately, I mean, you're a coach, I'm a coach. We're going to play the guys that we trust to help us win ball games. So
Yes.
So you got to have the whole package. I call it the complete player. So if I'm a parent or I'm listening here, I'm a player listening here, and I'm hungry for success, I got to realize that I got to get this information, and I got to start applying this information. And where are the sources to find the trusted information? I think that's probably the gold mine answer of it all. Because if you can truly find who do you trust, you know, because you go to social media, you could get lost in information. You could get lost in drills. You can get lost in concepts.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge, but the information's out there if you know who to trust.
Well, and that's what I want to go to next. And I've seen this go on for a number of years in spaces I've been in. I actually have a young man that played 6 years of pro ball that was with me at 11. And we had a talk one time about, you were just down recently in Virginia Beach, and you were with one of my guys, Matt. I mean, this is one of the kids that grew up with me. So, you know, you could see in that environment, I'm kind of Uncle Jack, but we all, like I saw Michael Kadire at the baseball convention, and he went 9th overall. I've known him since he was 15, and Wright's going out of the draft, the Uptons, Reynolds. I mean, all these kids are getting drafted. They all knew each other. They all went to, you know, proms together. And it was just a real family atmosphere. And Michael and I at the convention were talking about how the years have, he's mid-40s now. I can't believe that because I remember when he was 15. But Matt and I were talking about one time, there are factions in that community. That 757 produced a lot of talent, Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, Chesapeake. But it's like I'm friends sometimes with two polar opposite guys. And one's teaching this or one's teaching that, and they're basically sniping at each other. And this, of course, has gone international. You can turn on two people looking at the same top-level swings in the history of baseball, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, whatever, and they're seeing two entirely different things. So now it becomes this fight over is it the knob leading first? Is the barrel turning behind? So all this stuff goes on, and I think this is part of the problem why the kids can't learn to play baseball. Because it's, who's my guru? You know, and I've been friends with Tom House for 30 years. I've seen everything Tom's been through. Oh, he says this, that's wrong, this wrong. You know, I've heard it all. I've been in situations where somebody says something 180 degrees from what he teaches. I mean, and I know it because I know him, and I've been with him. And they're like, well, Tom House is wrong. Well, that's not even really what he says. But, you know, I love Tom. He's a close friend. But I wish that it would tone down, but there's finances involved, of course. If you're going to be the guy hanging out the shingle and you're saying I'm the guy, then I think that we as competitive people naturally go to, well, I got to tell you how bad the other guy is. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't even say a competitor. There was a guy in town that did pitching lessons while I was doing pitching lessons. And I had a friend of mine come to me one time. He said, hey, that guy loves you. He loves you. He thinks you're the best thing. Anybody that ever asked me about him, I'm like, best in the business. And we both said that. And to this day, we're 30 years really good friends. I not only never said anything negative, I believe that. And we coach together now. We still do stuff together now. So we always thought in terms of being in a friendship. Mm-hmm. And I never said, I wouldn't, because I love the guy, but I would never go out and say, oh, he's all wrong, come to me, I'm right. But now, as you know, a lot of what I see on social media is just the sniping back and forth. Would you not agree with that?
No, I do. And I think it's a big mistake. I mean, I don't think we need to tear each other down. But to me, I tell players, parents, coaches use a logic meter. Like, is what the person's saying making sense? Or maybe give it a try. Like, try
Right.
different things out. See what works for you, because our bodies all work different. Philosophies work different. Terminologies work different. You could tell me the same thing as somebody else in a different way and it clicks. It doesn't mean he was right, you were wrong. Or maybe I like what you say about this part of the delivery, but another part of something somebody else says works for me. When you're first learning the game, it helps if you can have one person kind of help you through all the steps, but where you're not having to piecemeal it together. But ultimately, the longer you're in this game, my infield philosophy, for example, is not from one person, not even close.
Yeah.
Like, it's bits and pieces of what I've taken from everybody I've been exposed to, and it goes through like a filter in my head, and I go, you know what? I really, really like that. I think that can help me be more efficient as a fielder, more consistent as a fielder, more consistent as a thrower, maybe a little bit more whatever it's going to help, and I apply, right? And then I create my own philosophies and teachings from that. So nobody has all the answers, and there's no secret sauce, and it's a big mistake, I feel like, for me to get on any platform and start bashing anybody.
Yeah.
Whether I agree or disagree, I see some things, mostly in the hitting realm right now more than anything, like these two schools of thought. And I still don't, I try very hard not to say anything if I disagree, because who's to say that that's not helping somebody? I don't know. It's just not my place to be the referee online and try to tell everybody how much I know or that they're wrong or whatever. I try not to. I do my best not to. If somebody comes at me, though, I pick and choose my battles if I'm going to reply, if I feel like they're insulting something that I feel like I know to be true. But when it comes to other people, I don't get in those battles.
You know, something else I got to say, I immediately loved your energy when I saw you, and we immediately hit it off. And like I said, we run the same circles.
Right.
And I'll tell everybody listening, I came down the other day and there was a couple of things you taught in infield. I'm taking that back right now. The next time I'm with infielders, because I don't feel like I'm an infield guy, but I've been around. Hampton Roads had an infield guy, and all these kids that play pro ball all kind of went to him. And then as time went on, some of them have gone back to be instructors. There's one in particular that I've spent a lot of time with because, and we've talked about this, he said, once I got to pro ball, you have got more elite runners. There's guys that lumber down there. There's guys that are corner guys that hit for power. They're not going to be runners, but that routine ground ball that you got away with high school, college, you may not throw this guy out if you don't, and this is what Tom used to refer to, baseball is a game of time, distance, and angles. Time, distance, angles. If you're going to play at higher levels, regardless of your skill set or what gifts you have, if you can learn to cheat time, distance, angles, you play longer. So, and I think I mentioned you, I hit ground balls to an infielder that played pro ball, came back from college, and all the alligator hands, getting around everything, he's feeling the ball entirely different. I'm like, what gives? He goes, hey, pro ball, you got to throw them out. You got to get the ball to first before the runner gets there. And they're pretty much, we don't really care how you do it. They give you some pointers. He goes, I'm getting around some older big leaguers, and they're like, nah, take those 3 steps out. Come to this. And that's what I saw in you. And some people have a gift to teach, and you do, clearly. I'm not just trying to, I think the world of you, we've just gotten to know each other. But when I was in that room watching you, I'm like, okay. And that's where I think the beauty of it comes from. You said some things differently that supported what I knew had to happen. And I'm like, that's another avenue to get to that spot.
Right.
To get that kid. And if the kid hears 14 different people trying to achieve the same objective, and one of those clicks, however. But I think we have to stay positive in the game. And I don't think that's anything new. I don't think we're talking about something that's gone on. But it seems to me the game is not being taught. It's being a battle over technique.
Yeah. No, so I want to touch on a couple things. One, you'll notice when you hear me at a camp or one of our Dirt Bro Infield Academies, like, I'm big into the why. Like, for buy-in, like, if I'm going to tell somebody something, like a declared backhand, like, why would this need to be in effect? Why is it important? What are some of the myths that still exist that we were taught back in the 80s and early 90s that still are hanging around today? You just touched on it. You had a player come back from football and he's like, this mechanical rounding off baseballs, it doesn't exist. It's efficiency, it's time, it's angles, and you have to be efficient. You got to get to the ball. You got to be consistent fielding it. You have to have a consistent, clean exchange, and you have to have a repeatable arm slot and throw strikes to first base before the base runner gets there. And really, that's what it boils down to. Now, there's some important components to all of that.
Absolutely.
And there's some hows that can help you do that well, and drills that can clean you up. But ultimately, I'm going to give the why, right? Like, I'm going to not just say, this is what Coach Mongero says, and you better do it this way, No, I'm not trying to cookie cutter everybody, but these are the efficiency components of a movement, and here's why it's important. All right. So I think that's really important to get across when you're teaching, and that helps the buy-in tremendously. I'm trying to answer the question why for them, because I always ask that question myself. As I said, the logic meter, why? Why should I do that? If you're going to tell me I need to add this into my swing, why? Like, how is that going to make me better? And if I can answer, I feel like it will because X, Y, Z, then guess what? It's going in. I'm putting it in. I'm putting it in my swing, putting it in my fielding. I'm doing whatever. I'm adding that drill in, whatever. But we don't own, to kind of backtrack a little bit, like on this stuff, we don't own any of it. Like, we don't own this game. Right. We don't own drills. We don't own philosophies. It's been passed on to us, thankfully, from others who love the game. And I just think any that we can share to help people grow. And that's what I love about what I do, is because I have kids that are hungry at these camps. And I also want the parents there, because I want them to hear. I got nothing to hide. I want them to see what their kids are learning. And the parents are oftentimes the player's best coach. When a kid goes home from a camp experience with me, the parent, if they're paying attention and the kid's paying attention, now hopefully they're on the same page, in agreement with, if they're going to work on something, they're not fighting each other. Where the kid's saying, well, this is what I learned at camp, and the dad's saying, well, this is what I saw on Instagram yesterday. They're in agreement, and now growth can occur. So, that's kind of my take on it. But we have to be willing to teach, and we can't shy away from teaching. Then it's a matter of, what do you teach? How much do you teach? You don't want to bog people down with information overload. So I think that's honestly where the best teachers are the best coaches. We can read the room. We see where our pupils are at, whether in a classroom or on a baseball field. And we know, okay, they don't need addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. They are ready to move on to algebra. And same thing with infield play. Like, there's certain drills I feel like that are addition and subtraction, and they're needed for certain players. But once those are mastered, I feel like if I have a group of kids that are past that, I'm not going to back all the way up to that level when it comes to just raw instruction. But I do think learning routines, drills that are practical, real, efficient, that transfer into the game, I think that's critical. And then I think it comes down to routines, like practical routines that you can learn and take with you on a daily basis to help you grow as a player, not the latest what's on Instagram, TikTok that looks like fun, and tomorrow, I saw this drill, so let's add that one, and the next day I saw this drill, and they don't even know why or how, what is the intent behind what's going on. So that's a lot within itself to unpack, everything that I'm saying right there, and I don't want to lead anybody astray, but it's really just, how hungry is the student? What can you give them based on where they're at to help them grow, whether it be mentally or physically as a player? And that's really all I'm striving to do.
I graduated law school, got a master's degree in history, really wanted to teach. So I'm teaching at college, and I'm at a teaching seminar. I did a presentation. Some people were like, wow, I really liked your presentation. I said, I learned a lot about teaching from house and baseball and from talk radio. I went and approached a guy in Norfolk, Virginia about being on radio, and he liked me. And he goes, you want to do this? He had me doing the night shift, doing news and weather till I got comfortable on the air and we started doing radio. Then he would sit and go, hey, you get in and out this way. All the best have turned records, or they were disc jockeys. And he talked about how radio worked. I got to get someone's attention in 30 seconds. I got to maintain it. So he talked about that type part of it. So House was telling the story one time I'll never forget. We're out there. He's got 20 guys in pro ball, and he's telling stories. And he says, I'm at SeaWorld one time, and they got Shamu the killer whale, and he's turning flips and taking a fish and doing, or what, he's doing all the, actually he didn't take a fish, he was doing these flips. And he goes, the trainer says, how do I get him to do this? And Tom's like, no one will raise their hands. He goes, I raised my hand and I said, you let him get real hungry and you feed him treats. And the guy goes, it has to be the stupidest thing I've ever said. I wouldn't go anywhere near that thing if it was hungry. He goes, all I have to do is have him trust me. Once that whale trusts me, he'll do anything. And he turned to us and he said, if you're teaching kids, because there's other coaches there, they got a BS sensor. And what they know immediately is this about you? And whether you're telling everybody you know everything, or is it about them? So when you win them over to the it's about them, they'll listen. So that's what they're really trying to weigh out. I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And I was watching it. This one really struck me because I'm a Skins fan, and I've actually got, yeah, here we go.
You poor guy.
I have this. This Sonny Jurgensen signed from Wilmington, North Carolina, from Wilmington.
New Hanover Heights.
He signed this Lombardi Jurgensen Sports Illustrated cover. So I think a lot of people would say Lombardi was a great coach. So he gets a job in high school coaching football, and they go, Vince, you're teaching chemistry. Very educated guy, Fordham University, and they're like, we're going to need you to coach basketball. The story was he literally went to the school library and checked out 2 books on basketball. Never been around the game. They won the state championship. But to his credit, what I think is so wonderful about him is when he went to the New York Giants, he really struggled early. And I saw Frank Gifford tell his side of it. He's not getting anywhere with the veterans. He turns his head in meetings and they're throwing chalk erasers at him. And this has happened to Vince Lombardi. So he knocks on the door of Charlie Connolly, old quarterback, and Frank Gifford. And he goes, what am I missing? And he goes, you're treating us like high school kids. We have mortgages, wives, children. We're men. And he goes, what do I do? He goes, come out and have a beer with us. He goes, the next day he was different. Now think about who is Vince Lombardi in our history and our culture now. He was willing to go to the players and said, what am I missing? And these 2 greats who were 30 some odd years old are like, dude, you're treating us like kids. The running sprints, we're not listening. And he said immediately he changed. Come have a beer with us. Now we're talking about professional sports, but like you start treating us like men, we'll start listening. It's immediate. He figured it out. So I think it says a lot about coaching. One, that he was a teacher. And he said that. It was a famous quote. Somebody said, what is coaching really? He goes, teaching. Same way I taught in the classroom, I teach on the field. If the player has more information and he trusts the information, he's always going to fall back to his level of training. We know that from military people. They'll say, hey, when the shooting starts, you're only as good as the training you've had. So when you're working with infielders, what in effect are you doing? You're getting kids prepared that when the bullets fire, it's not the same level of danger. But when you're on the baseball field and you haven't drilled to the point you instinctively move to the next step, you suffer and you question and you fall apart. So I think that's the biggest key thing that I got from what Tom was saying is, and it really got to me because I started to think like, okay, when I'm addressing these kids, meeting them for the first time, I got to win over their trust first. It doesn't really matter what I know. And I've really learned that with working kids in pro ball. I've been in buildings. I've been in a building a few years ago, the 5th rounder threw 100 miles an hour. He was struggling. So I'm standing around. He didn't know me from Adam. I'm in a building in North Carolina, and I kind of went, hey, you opened information? Sir, I'm still struggling right now. I do something with him, get him to locate down the way. He goes, Coach, I've never felt that. I'm like, okay. And I just say that not to blow my own horn, but I knew first, he's got to wonder, who the hell are you, or why am I listening to you? My career's on the line. So he was struggling with the body awareness thing. So first questions I had was, are you open? He could have said, pound sand, get the hell out of my face. I would have. Because I'm not there, but I'm seeing something. And I've learned from some pretty good people, so I'm like, all right, how do I win his trust first? Of course, right out the chute, when something went successful, he wants to hear more. He wants them. But if I have kids turn me down, absolutely. I've had kids say, I'm good doing it the way I'm doing it. And you might sit there and watch them continue to struggle, but you can't impose your answers on them if they're not willing to listen. So that's the toughest part of it.
Yeah, amen. No, you're spot on with all of it. I really don't have anything to add to that. That's,
Well, let's talk about you as a young man. Who was your first person? I know you talked about your dad giving you an opportunity to play in the yard and everything. That means the world to you. But who was your first person that maybe it had some higher levels of playing experience or coaching that really affected you the most?
A guy by the name of Bob Sorrow. He was my Babe Ruth coach, so he had us from 13, 14 to 15 in the summer. Another, really strong team, kids made up from different schools. And he started teaching the finer points of the game, things I had never heard of. He cared about us. We had good teams. Arguably, probably the best coach I ever had up through high school was him. Unfortunately, when you're 15, you're pretty much like a sophomore in high school, or maybe even a ninth grader in some cases. But so I didn't have him. He ended up later becoming a high school coach at the high school I went to, but it was many years later. And he's probably one of the best coaches that they ever had. So Bob Soros passed away. He died early, unfortunately, and friends with his wife, and our inner circles in Yorktown Heights, New York, are very small. So, but he was fantastic. He was the first one that really inspired me to, and my dad too. But my dad was done with me by the time I was 12. He turned me into a switch hitter and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't again really until I got to UNC Wilmington that I really started learning the game again at just a very deep level. And I was hungry. I was so hungry through high school, through my first year at Florida Southern, then when I transferred to junior college in Florida. We had good teams, and I got to be better just from watching others and learning from playing, and your body self-organizes. Play long enough, but still more the mental side of the game, just the chess part that I was talking about. Not so much how to field a ground ball, but more like situational awareness and all the stuff you were talking about earlier. I mean, it's amazing how much there is to really know. And it wasn't until I got to UNC Wilmington. I was a junior in college at that point, and I was fortunate to play for two guys. Bobby Guthrie, who was the head coach. He was an all-ACC player at UNC Chapel Hill when he was a player. And then my infield coach was Mark Scaff, who became the head coach a couple years.
I know Mark well.
Yeah, so after I graduated from UNCW, about 2 years later, he became the head coach. And that was over 30 years ago. So, but he was an assistant when I was a player. And he basically turned me from that little second baseman guy in JUCO to a starting shortstop at UNC Wilmington. And I attribute him to even a good portion of the stuff that I still do at my camps comes from Mark. So I owe him a debt of gratitude. And, he taught me how to be a man and play the game hard. And, so those are the two, Bob Sorrow, Mark Scaff, Bobby Guthrie as well. And, there was other good coaches, and then there was other bad coaches. And, I want to touch on that too. Like, you can learn from bad coaches, and don't let a bad coach run you out of the game. Play for your teammates, play for the love. But what I took from my coaches sometimes was, I don't want to be like that when I become a coach. That I don't feel like that was effective, what he was doing there. So I'm going to treat this scenario, when I'm faced in the same scenario, differently. And so there's been a lot of that as well, right? It's not just taking from the good ones. It's literally like maybe learning what you wouldn't do from what you might consider your not so good coaches. Or, some coaches really just kind of make lineups and coach the game, steal here, hit and run, slash, whatever. And then you have people that are more instructors that will teach the game down to its most fundamental level and build the most efficient player at every position and coach the game. On top of that, manage the game, So you have your daily coach, position coaching stuff, and then you have the managerial aspect of the game. So those are the guys. Didn't mean to get so long-winded with it, but
no. no. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Well, something else is funny. I got a friend of mine that played a little bit of independent ball, and then he got into pro ball coaching, and he has some breaks, and he's just a great guy. And he got a chance to manage in a higher level of independent ball. And, you know, he's got big leaguers on the team. And a guy came by his office one day, and he goes, do you know why the team loves you? Why we go through a wall for you? Well, he goes, you care about us. He said that. He goes, look, we all know how to play ball.
Right.
But you come around, how's the wife, how's the kids, how's your life going kind of thing. And, you know, he's not trying to be, to be a therapist, so to speak, but he goes, I've played for different guys, and if I'm playing for a guy that knows how to write the lineup, knows when to steal, hit, run, whatever, a lot of guys can do that. But he said, I feel like I want you to know as a former big leaguer trying to get back, your message to us about caring about us as people makes a difference in the clubhouse. And I thought, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because you played pro ball.
Yep.
You know, it's a grind. It's bus rides, especially at the minor league level and all the rest. And there has to be a certain amount of get along. And any kids listening and any parents listening, I have been in environments with people, and I'm sure you have too, that are pro ball decision makers. They'll cut people loose for not being a good citizen. Far more than just drinking, carousing. If you're not a good guy in the clubhouse, it can cost you. Everybody thinks hit, run, throw, hit with power, and you stay. But there's definitely a premium put. It is professional baseball. It does mean to some degree you have to be able to. Now, do you get a much greater leash if you're much more talented? Sure. Are there some bad people at the highest level? Sure. But I've met a lot of good people at the highest level, like really good people. And I think if you're going to play for 6 months, 7 months in a row, you're going to go to spring training, go through that whole thing, it does matter. Can you exist in an environment with people? And, you know, you don't have to go out all the time with everybody else, but you have to be that person in a team-oriented setting that can survive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to be a likable teammate. You know, it's just like, you know, your wife. You know, you can get under each other's skin when you're around each other like 24/7, right? So like, you're with these guys every day. Like, you're in the hotels, you're in restaurants often, you're, you know, on buses together, you're taking batting practice, you're in the locker room, you're playing the game in the dugout, then you're back in the locker room, then you're back there again the next morning, back at it. Like, I mean, if you're not you don't have to kiss anybody's behinds, but you genuinely should be a likable person, you know, bring energy, care about others, just be courteous, really, more than anything, you know. And good teams are going to have players that don't like each other, but they respect each other.
Sure.
You're not all going to, you know, be jiving in this kumbaya environment, but it's you're going to have a battle sometimes throughout the season where people get on each other's nerves, but you manage that. It's like any good business, right? It's just you manage relationships, and if you have I hate to use the word cancer because it's such a strong word, but, you know, if you have a cancer kind of personality, alienation personality, an aggravating personality, it just grinds on the team. Like, you're like an energy vampire, you know. It's just start to suck the energy out of the room. And if you're playing this game as hard and long as the season is, as hot as it is in the summer, with ups and downs, and we're all striving to get to the top, there's got to be something about you that people, when they see you that next day, they smile and say, hey, you know, hey, what's up, Trent? You know, hey, John, how you doing today, buddy? Like, fist pound or whatever and move on, or like genuinely want to see that person succeed. Yeah, we're all trying to get to the top, and there's a little bit of cutthroat, a lot of cutthroat in professional baseball. But ultimately, you got to be able to get along. So you got to be a teammate. And those that are listening, you just got to be a good teammate. It's not all about you. Yes, you're working on your game. You're trying to move up and all that. But within the team component, you got to be able to exist and thrive in that environment as well, I feel like. And like you said, if you're a super tooled guy, you're going to get more of a leash to be a jerk. But eventually, they're going to get rid of you.
Yeah, it could happen. Yeah. I want to take you down one more road.
Sure.
And we'll finish up. So I had a talk with a guy the other day that's probably quite a bit younger than me, and you talked about your dad loving Mickey Mantle. Well, I know a lot of people from a certain era that love Mickey Mantle, And what I found fascinating about him, I read a biography of Ted Williams and one of Mantle, and both of them had a lot of sadness. A lot of sadness, the Mantle thing with all the males in his family dying young, and Williams kind of somewhat quasi being from a broken home and 2 tours in the military where he lost a lot of his career but served his country. Matter of fact, Williams was asked one time, what's the greatest team you ever played for? And he goes, the United States Marine Corps. So that's what he said.
Yeah.
But Mantle wanted on his plaque that's out in Yankee Stadium, the plaque of all these greats, opens with great teammate. And the movie 61, Billy Crystal's movie, who became very close to Mantle, I think a lot of it was clearly based on fact, but there was a story of, and I've seen this written in other places, Elston Howard was the first black to play for the New York Yankees. And so when they were training in St. Petersburg, Florida, in the 50s, blacks couldn't eat in the restaurants. So Mantle would go get dinner and go out to the bus and eat with the rookie. And Elston Howard's like, of all guys, Mickey Mantle's going to come eat dinner with me? Now, Mantle told a story that they'd often drop Elston Howard off in a black community. And he goes, I love the soul food, so I wanted to go eat the food. But think about the impact on a young black player in a team that's never been integrated, that Mickey Mantle steps up to support you, right? Mickey.
Yeah.
So here's where I want to go with the rest of this discussion. I had a kid in Summer League the other year, crazy celebration, really showed up the opposition. I was like, son, that doesn't work for me. I know I'm an old man, all that, but that's just highly insulting to everything about baseball. And I got a little bit of, yeah, guys, well, we're young now. This is what we do. And I said, you know what? I saw a poster, and I did. I saw it in an indoor facility, and it's Mickey Mantle with his head down, clearly running from second to third, trotting out a home run. And the quote said, I always wanted to get around the bases as quickly as possible. I didn't want to show up the pitcher. He felt bad enough. Like, guys, he hit 536 of those. So if Mickey Mantle's talk about not wanting to show up the opposition, saw Jim Brown once. They asked him, why'd you just hand the ball to the official? He goes, because in my day, if you spiked it, acted a fool, you were considered chump, bush league, hot dog. That's Jim Brown.
Right.
Like Jim Brown's in the conversation. So something's happened in the culture. So that's what I want to ask you as a coach. We're about similar age. I feel like kids are playing for social media now a lot of times. I see them. I see them in circle. Hey, did you see Joey pimp the home run? Look what he did. The kid's bat flipping and doing things that in a different time, that guy's wearing one in the back, the teammate's wearing one in the back. I'm not advocating hitting guys at the plate, but I'm saying that would have been policed up. What are your thoughts on where the game is now with that?
Yeah, I got hit when I was playing for the Braves because the batter in front of me pimped a home run, so I took 96 in between the shoulder blades. So I'm not saying that that's how we should police it, but that's how it used to go.
But that's what was done there.
Yeah, and I couldn't throw a ball for about 2 weeks because it was right underneath my right shoulder blade. But so anyways, it's definitely an issue. I do think, just like anything else, that you can get your team to buy into a certain degree of respecting the game. And you can set that parameter as a coach. We're not trying to be steeljoys, but at the same time, why do you feel the need to want to do all of that? I mean, there's nothing bothers me worse than people doing that. They're down by 5 runs, 10 runs, they hit a bomb and they're going to pimp it out. I mean, she literally just made a post on social media tonight echoing these thoughts about it applies to everything, like dugout chirping, baiting, and intimidating. And just, I think dugouts have become, in many instances, like a high school basketball student section.
Totally.
They feel like they have to chant and, say all these things like it's funny. And to me, as a coach, if you can just educate your players on why that's not appropriate, and hey, that energy, can we turn it towards our guys? And here's why that's going to help us. Do you guys really want to win? Do you want to be a championship ball club? Because if you do, then we're going to have to go about our business a certain way. If you just want this to be like a rec league experience, then you got the wrong coach. But that's the kind of stuff that's going to go on. And there's a lot of people out there that understand this game to a much higher degree than maybe even you guys do. And when you can win and you can do it by respecting your opponent, it just leaves such a better taste in everybody's mouth. You don't have all this back and forth, and we're going to focus on our guys, and we're going to get after your behind. And if we win, we did it in a respectful way. We played the game better than you did that night. And if you hit if you hit a walk-off home run in a playoff game,
right?
And you did something crazy happens. I mean, we literally were playing a game last year, a high school game, and the opposing team. It was probably the 6th game of the year. Opposing guy hit a home run, and he literally took his helmet off when he when he hit it, and he threw his helmet. I'm not even kidding. 15 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The umpire should have chucked him right there. He gets all the way around the home plate, and he says, "I don't give a f what they think." And I'm just like, so now we got this whole drama thing going on. Instead of you just hitting a tremendous home run, hustle around the bases, enjoy it with your teammates in the dugout, and move on. Like the game, there's a lot more game to be played. But social media, the big moments, wanting to get attention.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it not just in baseball. You see it in everyday life. Like people are willing to film and do just about anything to get attention, and then they think it's modeled, and in some instances it is. I mean, I see a lot of college baseball. I like you. I mean, my son just got done playing. I watch Division I baseball. Whew. I mean, for like 6-7 years now, I've watched games like every day, and most of the teams are pretty respectful. I mean, I think most of the teams play hard. You'll see an occasional instance where somebody's doing something off, but usually it's a huge moment in a big game, and it's not every pitch, every strikeout, every end of every inning they're pounding their chest, pointing at the other. Nothing. It's pretty clean, but the stuff that does happen finds its way onto social media. So around the
gets
country,
amplified.
It's amplified. So now it seems like everybody's doing it when really it's not everybody doing it.
I agree with that.
Then the high school kids think, well, that's just how we're supposed to behave, I guess.
Right.
They have a coach that'll police it. Like I police my guys as best as I can. And I'm sure someone's going to pop off on my post tonight and go, we played against your team and one of your guys was. I'm sure I've had players over the years that have chirped when I wasn't in an earshot, whatever. They decided they were going to say something when I couldn't hear what they were saying and get away with it. But I can't hear, and especially when I'm in the third base coach's box and my dugout's over at first base and there's fans everywhere, I'm not going to hear every little thing. But they know without a shadow of a doubt, when I do hear them, they get the death stare, and I'm like, not necessary, focus on our team. And if I have to, I'll have a team meeting about it and explain the why. I mean, I think a lot of times when kids are explaining the why, and you hold them accountable to it, right? Like, you can't say it and then let them just get away with it and arbitrarily. I mean, it's either we're not going to address the other team, period. We're going to stay on our guys in a positive way. We're going to have positive energy for everything we do. We're going to attaboy. We're going to be out of the dugout when somebody gets a sack down, moves a runner up. We're going to bring positive energy. And you know what? We're playing for championships. And those guys over there that are acting like fools, they think this is their biggest moment. So beat them on the field, because that's what really hurts the most. I don't know. I just think you can educate them.
No, and I got lucky one time, got a real teaching moment. I was big. Maybe I'm wrong. This is 30 years ago.
Right.
30 years ago, I said, guys, one thing I can't take, I'm just going to tell you up front, is everybody running around and hopping up and down on home plate on the home run. I think it looks ridiculous. Given the situation in the game, it may not really make any sense. But I agree with you.
Right.
I think if I hit the walk-off home run, which would imply home team just hit the home run, now the field's ours.
Right.
Opposition's going to get off the field.
Right.
I don't think that's the same showing up. If you circle the bases, flip the helmet, whatever, the game's over.
Right.
But anyway, we're playing one day. This is where I got a great teaching moment. We're up 10-0, 3 outs and we win. Other teams hitting the top half the last inning. It's 10-run rule if they don't score. Guy hits a home run that scrapes the back of the fence. He could not have hit a shorter home run if he tried. It just makes it over. veers down the line. They all come running out of the dugout. They're all hopping up and down. The guy comes in, throws the helmet in the air, and I looked at the dugout. I'm like, guys, how stupid does that look? And they all went, damn, coach, that does look kind of stupid. And I was like, you see why I'm saying you don't do that? Don't ever do it. Circle the bases like a man, shake the hand of the next guy up, talk to the guy on the on-deck circle, do what you want in the dugout.
Right.
Don't show up the opposition. But I had that moment where they literally saw a game go from 10 to 10-1, and they celebrate. And like in the NFL context, what always gets me is like the defensive end strip sacks the quarterback. The ball's on the ground. He's up. He's here. The ball's still on the ground. And then the offensive lineman recovers. Team could have not only had the strip sack, they could have the ball.
Right.
But that's not his first priority. First priority is to get up and do the whole celebration thing. And you see it.
Oh, yeah.
Guys early celebrating on touchdowns, dropping the ball before they cross the line. There's such a movement towards look at me. The guys aren't focusing really on the game. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I was I'm a Skins fan. I was a big Art Monk fan. I don't remember ever seeing him score. He didn't hand the ball. New York guy. He's up your way, I think, was where he grew up.
Maybe.
He played at Syracuse, but, I think he was an upstate New York guy.
That's 2 hours north of me, but yeah.
It was Art Monk. But I can't remember what part of New York he was from. But the guy, he's a Hall of Famer, but he always carried himself like such a class act. That's what I remember about him. He's a Hall of Famer, but I never saw him do anything to show up the opposition. That made me respect him more. All the yards, all the touchdowns, all the catches. The thing I remember about Art Monk is he played the game correctly.
Yeah.
Played it right. And he looked right doing it. So that's why he's one of my heroes.
Right.
And, whatever the sport, it all translates. Trent, any closing thoughts you have for me, brother?
No, I just think when you're trying to create a program that's respected, that's not just a flash in the night kind of thing. There's a culture that's built, and there's a way you go about your business in the classroom, in the weight room, in practices, on the bus, in hotels, at the game, in the dugouts after home run. Not that you have to be perfect. You got to let people's personalities play. I'm not talking about micromanaging people.
Right.
And I'm not talking about being militant either. Just be professional and be respectful. I tell my teams when we go into restaurants and we leave, if the manager says that's the most well-respected group of young men I've ever seen, all the trash is picked up, every chair is pushed in, we had a good meal, we had some laughs, and we leave, we don't want an email coming back to the school saying, these kids got the mouths on these kids, they tore up the bathroom, they left trash everywhere. Like, there's just a way you go about your business. It's just a championship mindset. And that's what we're trying to teach. We're trying to grow young men at every level. Professional, you're dealing with adults. I'm talking about amateur level on, through college. And, I think that's what we have to teach. And it's just like the classroom. The students are going to rise to the level of expectations. You touched on it earlier. And, if you can set the expectations, make it reasonable, don't make it militant, don't try to steal every bit of fun. I tell my players there's a time and a place for cutting up, right? Like, you got to know, have a feel. When do I turn this off? Like this silliness, when can I kind of be cutting up in the locker room with my buddies, And so it's all about feel and growth and understanding. And ultimately, as an adult, that's what we have to do in a working environment, in a cultural environment. You got to assimilate, and you got to get work done, and you got to be a professional if you want to, provide for your family. And the game teaches all that if we allow it, And I just think there's a time and a place for certain things, and I try my best to get my kids, my players, to understand what those are, and if they mess up, it's a teachable moment, right? Maybe a little pine is required to help you learn a little bit better. May come sit next to me, in other words, or maybe just a simple talk. If is this a repeat offense? Is this a first time offense? And I'm not perfect, but I'm doing my best to try to grow, and I want the kids to have fun. To me, winning is fun, playing the game well is fun, having success is fun. Winning championships is fun. Spending time with your teammates on the buses, in hotels, in restaurants. That's what fun is. Not just waiting for the moment when I can show up an opponent and put it on Instagram.
Right.
So,
all right. So Trent, please on the way out, tell people. Again, for everyone listening, phenomenal infield instructor, great baseball mind. Please tell people how they can see you, contact you for whatever level with your instruction, what you do, what sites or platforms you're on where you can be noticed and seen.
Sure. So CoachMongero.com. That's MONGERO.com is my website. There you'll find our digital products on infield routines, detailed throwing routines, all very reasonably priced, very professionally done. We have a hitting product. The big league hitting coach currently for the Atlanta Braves, Tim Hires, was with the Rangers for 3 years prior, was with the Red Sox prior to that, won multiple World Series championships. In my opinion, the best hitting guy in the world. I did some hitting stuff with Tim. Numerous products, including the Winning Baseball books that we were paid to do almost 15 plus years ago now. So that's all there. And then the camps, the Dirt Bro Elite Infield camps around the country. We have at least 5 a year that we do at UNC Wilmington on campus. And then I travel. And when I say we, that's me and my son Tabor, he just finished playing Division I baseball. He's now director of player development for UNC Wilmington. He's on staff as an assistant coach. And he's my assistant when we do the Dirt Bro Elite Infield camps. We have one coming up. I don't know when this podcast will be released, but in about a month we have one in South Boston, Virginia.
Okay.
So we got one. That'll be mostly younger, middle school, freshman type, because high school season I think is probably already in effect at that time.
Right.
Twitter, Coach Mongero, at Coach Mongero. Facebook is Coach Mongero Winning Baseball. And then Instagram is Trent Mongero, I believe, again. And just make posts across those platforms, different things that come to mind. A lot of times something will pop up in a game or just my mind will click and I'll make a comment about it and give my opinion, and you can take it or leave it. But that's pretty much how they can reach me. I have an old YouTube channel that still has quite a few videos up on it. I've pulled some down over the years, probably still 100 different clips on there of different things that have been viewed for 15, 20 years, probably since YouTube was just in its infancy.
Right.
They can check me out there as well for some content, but it's not going to be some of the newer stuff.
Trent, I have really enjoyed this. I really appreciate you, and I know we'll be crossing paths again real soon. You're a great baseball guy. For people that are listening, please look up his stuff, and he's very approachable, and he'll help your kids in so many ways, and I greatly appreciate it, sir. And it's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. See you, brother.
All right, see you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, subscribe and hit your notification button to get an update when we post another episode. See you soon.